You won't be able to do all of this at once. But the beauty about this is that EQ, emotional intelligence, is something that we can work at on a daily basis. Hey there, Cornell Jermaine here, back with another video. Listen, today I'm excited because I have something I'm sharing that kind of piggybacks off of a video that we did just maybe a week or so ago. And it was a Q&A that was asked by a particular person that wanted to understand how they could develop their customer service team to better understand and meet the needs or expectations of their customers. And I remember when I got the question, I was thinking about some different things that I thought would be useful, and then one particular phrase came to mind. Here's a little clip just so you can see. This answer is encompassed in one phrase, and that is emotional intelligence. I think if any business develops and trains their team in emotional intelligence, you will ultimately end up with a better group of people at the end of the day. Now, in this particular video, I brought to light a particular term that has been in the world of psychology and more for many years now, but it's one that is still making its way into the business world. And I have found how useful it is both in everyday life as well as in doing business as an entrepreneur. It's even for employees, people who work for corporations and organizations. EQ, which is your emotional quotient, is something that is necessary for just human existence. I tell you why, because we are emotional beings. We have varying intelligences, and we have IQ, obviously, which is the intelligence that most of us are aware of. Then we have SQ, which is spiritual intelligence, but we also have EQ, which is emotional intelligence. I think most of us are trying our best to have the best IQ. Even if we may not have the level, we want to exhibit the qualities and characteristics of someone with a high IQ.
Hey pal, you just blowing from Stupid Town?
Jesus Christ.
Spiritual intelligence often, I think comes with individuals who typically have had some kind of experience, some kind of spiritual encounter, or they have a history, maybe a family history, a rich history of spirituality within the family that was kind of ingrained in them from childhood, you know what I mean? EQ is one I think that we don't talk about, deal with, or maybe some aren't even aware of. Before I go there, let's talk about just the word intelligence in general. The definition of intelligence is the ability to acquire and apply knowledge and skills. But when we talk about emotional intelligence, according to the Mental Health America study, emotional intelligence is the ability to manage both your own emotions and understand the emotions of people around you. Why is this something that should be a part of our life and existence when it comes to doing business? It should be because if we understand one human factor that is across the board, no matter your background, no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, we all are emotional beings, whether we acknowledge them or not. That's a key point, because some people suppress, and the suppression of emotion does not mean you do not have them. It just means they've been pressurized to one day explode and just cause a catastrophe. And the reason why they are important is because they come out whether we recognize them or not. And this is as the individual, the one that's doing business. But then you have a customer, someone who's coming in, someone that you have to serve, someone that you have to greet and engage with. They have emotions as well. And depending on what type of business you're in, sometimes those emotions are a lot more fluid and a lot more apparent than others. If you're a lawyer and you're taking on a case that has to do with someone's child going to jail, guess what? That person is showing up with a set of emotions. As an attorney or an individual who is emotionally intelligent, you show up now with the framework to be able to serve this client in the best way. It means understanding who you're dealing with, what they're facing, both physically in front of them and emotionally. And if you understand that emotional side of things, it will help you to be able to carve a way of engaging that will not only give them comfort, but will help them to understand and better cope with whatever challenge, problem, or conflict that is in front of them. It's important because we, in this day and age, have become emotional volcanoes. I mean, that's the only way that I can present it that really could give you a visual that makes sense, because many of us are erupting all over the place emotionally because in some instances, we have suppressed those emotions so that we have not acknowledged them. And now trauma after trauma, issue after issue, confrontation after confrontation has now caused that thing to just erupt and explode. And then there are other instances where individuals have not even acknowledged the emotion and they've just been running around emotionally haphazard, just doing whatever. This is how we can better form a better society, but also do better business. Because your client, your customer, your employee, an employer is showing up with a set of emotions. If we can acknowledge those things, we can now put frameworks in place, put systems in place, put training and things in place to now develop those qualities, make people aware, and then set them in motion to be able to do business at an exceptional level. Here are the 5 frameworks of emotional intelligence. The first one is self-awareness. Self-awareness is the ability for you to identify, acknowledge, and listen to your emotions. And as you identify, acknowledge, and listen to them, you now can manage them properly. When we just suppress and don't identify, it leaves us in a place of just anything could happen. When you're talking about emotional intelligence, you're talking about your brain and your emotions coming into alignment. So you feel the emotions are there, but your brain now is able to calculate and understand those emotions and make them useful to the overall goal or whatever it is that you're experiencing or into at that moment. So that those emotions don't become stumbling blocks, barricades, and issues that stand in the way of your success. When that alignment comes, now you can manage and use those emotions properly. So that brings us to what? The second pillar, which is called self-regulation. And this is one that sometimes many people don't deal with or don't know how to deal with, right? For whatever reason, they suppress, whatever reason it is. Maybe it's because they don't feel emotion. Some people come from families that are not emotional. And some people come from families that are excessively emotional. That's another regulation. So there has to be this responsibility in our part to identify where we come from and develop in those areas so that we can be our best selves and show up to our places of employment or our places of business to serve our customer in that same way. The beauty about it is as you develop emotionally and become more intelligent in this area, now you can identify these deficits in others and you can now help them along as well. The second pillar of self-regulation is something that I had to learn. I remember a time when I was working for an establishment and this particular owner allowed me to work for them. I was a self-employed individual, but I needed a space, right, to work in. And they allowed me to come in knowing that I did not have, at the time, enough money to pay the rent. So they said, well, we'll do this with you. We'll allow you to take care of these particular items that we need on a monthly basis. That was something I was grateful for. And then as I grew, my clientele began to grow and they started to see other opportunities that I could maybe, get extra cash. So they allowed me to bring a vending machine, which she did not charge me any rent for either. So time passed, things began to grow. I began to build. I now began to offer a little bit more money for the establishment or my space within it because I had a little bit more means, right? Well, in this process, there was something where the operator, I noticed, started to use products here and there. Now, sometimes she'd ask, and I wouldn't mind, I let her use it or whatever, it's no problem. But then I started to notice that sometimes I'd go to look for something and they were missing. That means she now began to just think it was okay to just use it, maybe because she gave me this opportunity or maybe because she felt like I wouldn't mind. I don't know. Well, it bothered me, right? I identified the emotion, the annoyance, annoyance, whatever it is I felt that was like, okay, I ain't feeling this. I was self-aware, but I didn't regulate well. So I suppressed it. I said, okay, no problem, whatever. I ain't tripping. I rationalized with myself to make what I knew I did not like okay. That's improper self-regulation, and that's not emotionally intelligent. What ended up happening in this situation is one day I was at my wit's end. I had clients. It was just a lot going on. I was serving and doing my thing with them, and I noticed that something was empty. And I was like, okay. Not only are you using it, but you emptied it out. And guess what? All that emotion that was suppressed erupted. And within an hour, not only had I went off and caused a scene that I'm not proud of in this particular establishment, but I called my peeps and we had moved everything out of that establishment. Everything that had been built in that particular establishment was now gone. Unfortunately, I did not handle that in a professional manner, which made me look bad as a professional. There were no customers there, fortunately, so they did not see this, but there were other workers there. So it presented me in the worst light. Why? Because they didn't see this person and what they did. And this is why emotional intelligence can trip us up, and it'll make us look like we don't know, we're unprofessional, essentially. But I wasn't unprofessional, I just did not manage the emotion in that moment properly. That's self-regulation. Why is this important? Because if we don't understand this in business, we'll be reckless with our emotions, ultimately turn off our customers, our employees, our staff, etc., and destroy our businesses. You don't want to do that. So you have to be first self-aware, then you have to self-regulate. The next one is motivation. Motivation is one that keeps us going, keeps us progressing, keeps our mind and our emotions in alignment so that now we can make progress in whatever area it is. Now, one that is unmotivated is one that is not emotionally regulated, is not emotionally intelligent in a way that keeps them up and moving, keeps them inspired to move forward in a manner that keeps them progressing. So if you have a person that's around you that's not motivated to do something, there's some emotional issue that's going on that's keeping them in a place of just melancholy and just moving on as things come, or not wanting to do anything, not motivated, all that kind of stuff. And as you grow in intelligence, you'll be able to identify that and address that and support that person in addressing that issue so that they can move forward and address that lack of motivation in their life. The fourth pillar is empathy. Obviously, that's how we address and communicate with others who exhibit emotions, right? Or who have issues. We have this all the time when it comes to business. People show up, they're angry, they're upset, they don't know what to do, and they show up to you for the answer. Obviously, they're leading in with whatever that emotion is because they're upset. That's not uncommon. We, as the professional or as the customer-facing department, have to show up with the ability to acknowledge it, listen to it, address it, and manage it. This is what emotionally intelligent people do. Let them get it out. Let them vent. The point is, find the place where you could have dropped the ball as the employer, as the customer service rep, or as your team, you know what I mean? Because maybe you have never met this client. Maybe you're getting random phone calls from customers and you've never worked with this particular person, but apologize on behalf of your company, your organization. And you want to move forward with the mission, making it your personal mission to help resolve that issue for that customer. That is effective emotional intelligence. The fifth pillar is social skills. This is just your ability to be able to engage with people. And if you're a customer-facing individual, your social skills are gonna be very important. And listen here, social skills is not just how you show up to the board meeting. Social skills is how you engage in your media, in your website, in your designs, and your landing pages. All of that is social. And if you can't be consistent on all of those platforms, in person and online, then there is some lost or some gap in your social skills, and that needs to be developed. So how you engage, in the case with the irate customer, your social skills, first of all, get you to listen to that emotion, manage that emotion, and resolve that issue, and communicate communicate with them in a way that was effective at resolving. There's a whole nother framework that comes in that department because we have to talk about language in that manner. Because your language is something that is going to be very important for the social aspect or the social skills of communicating verbally to be effective. Now, the communication is not just verbal, it's within your physicality, your body language. So when you show up to the job, in your mind, you've already acknowledged the fact that you don't want to be there, you don't like this job, I hate these people, whatever. So now your body language shows up and exhibits that kind of emotion, right? The social skills or the intelligence in that manner, you would acknowledge the emotion of the fact that you hate this job, you don't want to be there, you don't like these people, you don't like serving these customers. Your regulation would have said, okay, but this is how we have to understand the situation and how we have to use this emotion of whatever it is that you may be feeling to motivate us to say, okay, how am I gonna get out of this situation? The emotional intelligence would take you to a place of being able to regulate that emotion, use it to your benefit, use it to fuel you. Now you're motivated and you can exhibit empathy when you encounter people that feel just like you, right? And you can have the social skills to be able to maintain the professionalism you need to maintain while making your way out. Understand that this emotional intelligence is one that I feel is vital, not just to everyday living, but to the success of your business. And if you learn how to become self-aware, self-regulated, motivated, have empathy, and develop the social skills necessary. Now, granted, you won't be able to do all this at once, but the beauty about this is that EQ, emotional intelligence, is something that we can work at on a daily basis. And guess what? It's important that we work at it on a daily basis because we're gonna feel all kinds of emotions every day from whatever situation, whatever circumstance that we're experiencing. And if we can articulate the emotion that we're feeling and be able to say, okay, this is what I need to do in this moment. I'm a social person. I'm a person that loves people, loves to be around people, but when it comes to some moments when I'm just completely thin, I know when I gotta say, okay, I gotta take a moment. Because in myself right now, I'm not at my optimum. I'm depleted. All of these scenarios are emotional intelligence. And if we can implement them personally, then they will show up and make progress and bountiful blessings and beautiful businesses and departments and engage and develop beautiful customer relationships and serve us in a way that will allow us to be not only successful, to be proud of who we are and who we show up as on a daily basis. If I had to give you a suggestion to start somewhere, I would say start with self-awareness. What are you feeling? Why? And how can you move past or regulate? Don't suppress, don't ignore, but regulate that emotion in order to motivate you to the next. I hope this has helped you. I hope this has been a blessing to you. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments. What do you think about this concept? Do you think it's something that should be implemented in our organizations? Are you willing to implement it in your organization? Let me know. I want to talk about it. Alrighty, I'll see you next time, same place. Until then, listen, I'm Cornell Jermaine signing off. Take care.